Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 57 based on novel. So let's start. Teleportation divine art was actually a divine art constructed by algebra. The difference in direction, place, distance, and space needed one to calculate the order and rules of the runes. Every established teleportation point required a huge amount of mathematical operation. 2 words: mathematical operation. What was the operation? Operation meant the sequence, evolution, change, rules of the rune formation. With evolution in the sequence of the rune formation to change the rules, only then could he have a calculation. By refining the teleportation divine art into a treasure, it was to rely on the runes and formation changes imprinted on the treasure to push the calculation, which was thousands of times more complicated than using the beads of an abacus. It could be seen as a large-scaled abacus that was strangely constructed. If he wanted to execute this divine art by himself, he would have to be able to adjust the calculation anytime and anywhere, finding out the marvel of teleportation through the complicated runes. With only 10 computation cannons, it was impossible for him to deduce such a complicated operation formula. Therefore Qin Mu felt that he needed an even more superior algebra record, and only then could he completely learn the teleportation divine art. Profound computation should be taught in Imperial College's Hall of Array Element. Hall of Array Element teaches formation skills, therefore, they definitely have to use the operation of algebra. Maybe Dao sect also has such a computation, and might be even superior. Qin Mu suddenly remembered Daozi Lin Xian. When Daozi Lin Xian executed a dot threading the vast movements, yin and yang come and go within 2 modes, he had used an extremely complicated algebra operation method. Yin and yang come and go within 2 modes required an extremely large amount of algebra operation, and without a strong mathematical operation ability, it was very difficult for him to calculate the changes in the moves and calculate out the exact location of Qin Mu's weakness. Without a profound computation, it's impossible for me to learn the teleportation divine art now. Now I only know what is done, but not why it is done. I should first refine out a treasure of teleportation. Qin Mu put his heart down and focused on refining the treasure. No matter whether he refined a teleportation flag or a teleportation clothing, he would need cloth. Now he had only 1 set of brocaded clothes now, he could only make do with it. Meanwhile, using his brocaded clothes made from 6 wings golden natural silk to refine out a teleportation clothing, he would need to pull out some threads. After taking out a few threads of golden natural silk, he used the golden natural silk to sew the formation on the clothes and used his vital qi to mark the runes. He had learned to tailor from Granny Sai since young, therefore, he had some experience with embroidery. This wasn't difficult for him. Say, do you think the sacred cult master can rely on his own strength to leave Saint Arrival Mountain? The 3 cult heavenly kings had yet to leave Saint Arrival Mountain to prevent Qin Mu from being trapped here. The 3 elders looked at Hall of Floating Light, and Heavenly King Lu stroked the mountain goat-like beard on his chin. Refining a treasure of teleportation is that simple. The teleportation method of our sacred cult could be said a divine art that causes the most headache for everyone. Heavenly King Yu nodded his head in deep agreement. The art of teleportation needs a high requirement for algebra, and it's difficult to learn it without being proficient in algebra. The sacred cult master is still quite young, and shouldn't have much attainments in algebra. Let him comprehend it for a few days. Without knowing the difficulty, he won't know how to progress. Knowing the difficulty and progressing is then the heart that seeks knowledge. Heavenly King Sha was the most earnest. The sacred cult master experienced 2 little setbacks, and came to the position of the sacred cult master easily. Without sharpening him on the grindstone, it would be hard for him to grow. This was also Patriarch's idea. The other 2 cult heavenly kings nodded their heads repeatedly. Do we need to create some setbacks to sharpen him? There's no need. The comprehension this time is enough to let him know what's a setback. Patriarch's idea was to wait until he couldn't leave this place, and we will then give him a teleportation flag. Heavenly King Sha smiled and said, every action from Patriarch has its in-depth meaning. Both of you definitely know how hard it was to master the teleportation divine art. So what's the point of Patriarch making him stay here to learn the teleportation divine art? Heavenly King Lu and Heavenly King Yu's eyes lighted up and they clapped their hands in exclamation. Even though the teleportation divine art was in Hall of Floating Light, and didn't prohibit disciples to comprehend it, there were not many people who were able to learn the teleportation divine art. Every hall master in the sacred cult had a teleportation flag, but these flags weren't made by those hall masters personally, and were actually spirit weapons made by the 4 cult heavenly kings. There are not many people in the entire heavenly devil cult who could master the art of teleportation and refine it into a treasure. Even the previous generation saintess, Sai Yuyu, also couldn't master it. She didn't have very high attainments in algebra. Patriarch's idea was to let Qin Mu go to Hall of Floating Light to learn the art of teleportation, and when Qin Mu discovered that the teleportation divine arts required an extremely high attainment in algebra, it would have already been over 10 days. Then after 10 days or more, Qin Mu would realize he couldn't cultivate this divine art, and could only refine the treasure of teleportation. After another 10 or more days, Qin Mu would then discover that he couldn't even refine out the treasure. If this happened, the naughty and mischievous temper of this young sacred cult master could be grinded, making him know the immensity of heaven and earth. He would then learn not to perpetrate outrages, and have an exaggerated opinion of his own abilities. When that time came, Qin Mu would calm his heart down and comprehend the unity technique of heavenly saint cult. Then the 3 cult heavenly kings would appear, and give this young cult master a teleportation flag, allowing the sacred cult master to leave Saint Arrival Mountain successful to everyone's delight and satisfaction. This was the deep intention of why Patriarch had made Qin Mu remain on the mountain to comprehend the teleportation divine art. Heavenly King Yu had a grave expression. What exactly happened to Heavenly King Qian? Have any of you received any news? Heavenly King Shi and Heavenly King Yu shook their heads. Heavenly King Shi said, Senior brother Qian has most likely come to misfortune already. He is always the most enthusiastic, yet he is still yet here. I reckon the enemies must have made a move on him to find out the location of our headquarters, to investigate who is the new cult master. With his temper, he will definitely not say it out. Heavenly King Lu's heart leaped. Senior brother Qian has such a high cultivation. No matter how high his cultivation is, there's always someone higher than him. Heavenly King Shi said solemnly, the first-ranking high officials of the imperial courts are all cult master level existences. Dao sect, Great Thunderclap Monastery have no lack of such top practitioners. Other sects and families also have hidden experts that are fixing their gaze on our heavenly saint cult. Many of them had thought our heavenly saint cult had declined after 40 years, so who doesn't want to take this opportunity to take a bite out of us? The crucial point is, who's the enemy? Everyone fell silent. After a moment, Heavenly King Yu said, this time the cult master had ordered the left and right guardian to establish the 360th hall, school hall. This is a big matter. The capability of this cult master is a level higher than Cult Master Li. This kind of vision and boldness doesn't seem like what a kid just over 10 years old should have. He seems to have more experience than an old man that had lived for over a few hundred years. It's most likely Patriarch guiding him. It's possible, the sacred cult master is out. The 3 heavenly kings looked towards Hall of Floating Light and saw Qin Mu walking out. Opening wide the brocaded gown, which he wore on the outside, this young sacred cult master suddenly covered the brocaded gown over his body and vanished with a poof. The heavenly kings were stunned and only heard a loud crash. Half of the pavilion of Phoenix Arrival had collapsed. Not good. The 3 heavenly kings' hearts leaped, and they immediately looked towards Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival. Under the debris of the half-collapsed Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival, a youth stood up and looked around. He felt no one had seen him and immediately raised his clothes over his body, disappearing once again. Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival is where the 6th generation cult master received the phoenix. For a phoenix to descend on our Saint Arrival Mountain, how glorious was that? Heavenly King Yu's calves and stomach trembled as he muttered, now it's half collapsed. How are we going to answer to our ancestors and our disciples? Heavenly King Shi also had a change in expression, as he muttered to himself irresolutely, there is only one records of the phoenix resting on the parasol tree written by the 6th generation cult master. It's only a biography and not a technique. I had long memorized records of the phoenix resting on the parasol tree by heart. Let's repair the pavilion of phoenix arrival and find the book hall master to imitate the handwriting of the 6th generation cult master and fill in the rest of the writing. I'll assure no one will be able to see a thing. The sacred cult master seemed to have refined a teleportation clothing, although he's not familiar with controlling it. Heavenly King Lu was astonished. He actually managed to create a treasure of teleportation. How is that possible? At this moment, there was another loud boom, and the 3 Heavenly King immediately looked towards the source of the voice, their faces turning black. The roof of Hall of 3 Kings had collapsed. Their young cult master had yet controlled the teleportation clothing and had teleported above Hall of 3 Kings, crashing through its roof and creating a huge hole. Hall of 3 Kings was a great hall constructed to commemorate 3 sacred cult masters. These 3 sacred cult masters had lived in the same generation, and at that time, the fights between sects were very bitter. Dao sect had gathered all the righteous sects in the world, as their leader, to attack Heavenly Devil cult. Back then, the old cult master died in a battle and handed the cult over to Heavenly King Qing of the 4 cult Heavenly Kings before he died. Heavenly King Qing then imparted great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures to the saintess back then before leading everyone to battle, fighting to the death in Jade Ripple Pool. After the saintess had inherited the cult master's position, she once again went out to battle and slaughtered Dao sect until they couldn't withstand it anymore, having no choice but to retreat. When the saintess returned to Saint Arrival Mountain, she imparted the techniques before allowing her injuries to break out, dying in a seated posture. Therefore, the next sacred cult master constructed Hall of 3 Kings to commemorate them. When Qin Mu had failed his teleportation earlier and destroyed Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival, it was still fine, but now he had smashed Hall of 3 Kings. That was a little overboard. Suddenly another whoosh was heard as Qin Mu covered himself with his clothes and vanished. The 3 Heavenly Kings jumped in shock and immediately chased over. Sacred Cult Master, Little Devil. You can't tear down anymore. The 3 Heavenly Kings' cultivations were dense and had also cultivated the art of teleportation. Heavenly King Shi's treasure of teleportation was a flag which teleported him away with the unfurl of a flag. Heavenly King Lu had cultivated a mirror which would teleport him away when he pointed it at himself. Heavenly King Yu had created a jade pendant which he wore on his waist. With a gently pat, the jade pendant's glow would burst forth and bring him away. The 3 of them had dabbled into the art of teleportation for a long time, and even though they were unable to cultivate teleportation divine art, it was much easier and nimble for them to control their treasures of teleportation than this newbie. The 3 Heavenly Kings were proficient in their technique, and could see where Qin Mu was about to teleport to, so they immediately headed there to intercept. Yet they were still an instant slower and pounced into empty air, falling into fish observation pond together. The few fish dragons in the pond were ferocious, and when Qin Mu had just fallen into fish observation pond, these fish dragons opened up their huge mouths yet in vain. Then the 3 Heavenly Kings teleported in just right as appetizers. The bodies of the 3 Heavenly Kings vanished once again to make the few huge fish bite into the empty air, shooting out sparks from their razor-sharp teeth colliding with each other. The few huge fish shook their heads and swam away resentfully. The bodies of the 3 Heavenly Kings appeared in mid-air, and they stretched their hands to grab Qin Mu, who was raising his brocaded clothes. Just as the 3 hands grabbed tightly, Qin Mu was one step faster than them and they could only grab his afterimage. Before Patriarch left, he had warned us about the young cult master's strange hobby of tearing things down, if we couldn't catch him. The 3 of them activated their treasures of teleportation once again, and heard 3 thuds, as everything turned black before their eyes. Their bodies were tightly restrained, and they immediately realized something was wrong. They hurried to tremble their vital chi, and shattered the thing that was surrounding them and realized that they had teleported themselves into the trunks of the trees while following Qin Mu. Where's the sacred cult master? Heavenly King Shi asked. Just as he said it, they found Qin Mu's head popping out from a huge tree, which could only be hugged with 2 people. His body was stuck in the trunk of the tree, and he couldn't get himself free. That tree was a sago palm, and its quality was even harder than metal. Heavenly King Lu had a bad temper and shouted, "Cult Master, why aren't you running anymore? 3 Heavenly Kings, all of you are still here." Qin Mu replied shamefully, "My vital chi is depleted and I'm trapped in this sago palm, unable to lift my clothing. 3 Heavenly Kings, please help me." The 3 Heavenly King didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Heavenly King Shi chopped down the sago palm and rescued Qin Mu out. "Cult Master, you are the sacred cult master of our sacred cult, and have a high position after all. You can't fool around on this Saint Arrival Mountain. The constructions on Saint Arrival Mountain are all places of historic interest, and have their own meanings." Heavenly King Lu said, "Cult Master, you aren't a child." When he said so, he felt something wasn't right. Isn't this sacred cult master just a child? Qin Mu was not yet 15 years old and several times younger than them. Heavenly King Lu muttered, "When I was sacred cult master's age, I played all day in mud. No, I already helped with the rice harvest. However, sacred cult master, the art of teleportation is very dangerous, and if you aren't careful, you can teleport into a restricted area, and when that happens, even gods can't save you. There are still quite some restricted areas on our Saint Arrival Mountain." Qin Mu felt a bone-chilling cold. If he was to teleport to a restricted area, he would have died miserably. "Cult Master, the treasure of teleportation requires you to determine the position, and the crucial point is how to confirm the location of the transfer." The 3 Heavenly Kings looked at one another in the eyes and suppressed the astonishment in their hearts. "Cult Master, you have refined the teleportation clothing and yet master how to determine the teleport location. This is very dangerous. For teleportation, you must first determine where you are and determine where you want to go. When you're about to reach the place, you must retract your vital chi back immediately, or else you will crash into something. When you try it for the first time, don't teleport too far and try somewhere nearer. Teleporting nearer makes it more convenient for you to stop as and when you like." Qin Mu's eyes lighted up. "Let me try again." Anxious expressions immediately spread throughout the 3 Heavenly Kings' faces. Heavenly King Yu hurriedly said, "Cult Master, your vital chi is depleted and there's no need to for you be impatient. Furthermore, the reason why Patriarch left you here was not to let you study the teleportation divine art. He wanted to calm your heart down to comprehend unity technique. Saint Arrival Mountain is very serene and there are no noises from the outside world. If you leave here, you would probably take 1 to 2 years to completely comprehend unity technique." Qin Mu's heart was enlightened. There was indeed a meaning to why Patriarch had left him behind. He had been thinking of refining a teleportation clothing for the past 2 days to leave this place, and had yet thought of Patriarch's intention. "I was too impatient to succeed." Qin Mu expressed his thanks calmly. "Thank you, Heavenly Kings, for showing me the right path. We don't deserve it." The 3 Heavenly Kings immediately returned his greeting solemnly. Heavenly King Shi said, "Cult Master has outstanding wisdom, and will definitely have a great gain by staying here for a few more days." Qin Mu calmed his heart down and walked towards the pine cypress. He sat on the rock and diligently comprehended the scriptures the woodcutter had passed on to him. The 3 Heavenly Kings let out sighs of relief, and Heavenly King Shi muttered, "Patriarch left Cult Master on Saint Arrival Mountain wanting to grind his temperament. Cult Master's temper is indeed naughty and mischievous, and Patriarch must not have expected Cult Master to cultivate the teleportation method to such an extent with such a fast speed. Am I right?" The other 2 Heavenly Kings had a weird expression. The young Patriarch's idea may be good, but who would have thought that straight after he had left, Qin Mu had realized that it was impossible for him to cultivate the teleportation divine art now, and had to be proficient in algebra. And what was more, Qin Mu realized immediately that he could refine a treasure of teleportation first. It was only the 2nd day, and he had already come out with a teleportation clothing to teleport here and there, tormenting the 3 Heavenly Kings. Heavenly King Lu shook his head. How wise is Patriarch? How could he not think of it? He must have expected it, therefore, he had let the 3 of us guard this place. After a moment, the 3 Heavenly Kings sighed in unison. Patriarch definitely didn't expect so. The three heavenly kings started to fret and grow apprehensive. This sacred cult master was utterly mischievous, yet he was so intelligent. It was pretty impossible for them to chasten his temper. With the speed of Qin Mu, he just needed to practice a few more times and he could master the technique. When that time came, how could they make him stay to chasten his mischievous temper? After a moment, Heavenly King Yu smiled. We seem to be wasting our time on an insoluble problem. The other two heavenly kings looked at him and gave him a look of inquiry. Heavenly King Yu smiled and said, Sacred Cult Master is so clever, so let him play crazily if he likes to play crazily. Since he has a mischievous temper, let him be mischievous. He is the cult master after all. Let us not care about the rest, and just care about cleaning up his mess. To clean up his mess nicely is what we should do. Heavenly King Sha said, that's the only thing we can do. Be that as it may, if the cult master continues to play around crazily, I feel it's still better for him to leave Saint Arrival Mountain earlier, and let him return to torment Imperial College. The three elders came to Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival, and became masons to repair Pavilion of Phoenix Arrival. They then went to Hall of Three Kings to repair the roof. Heavenly King Lu went for a long trip, and brought Book Hall Master back, after 2 days to get him to forge records of the phoenix resting on the parasol tree on the walls of Hall of Phoenix Arrival. After everything was settled, the three heavenly kings let out sighs of relief and looked at one another in the eyes. The sacred cult master's perception, through meditation this time, could at least let us relax for half a year. Am I right? With the degree of the sacred cult master's monstrosity, hard. Under the cypress pine, Qin Mu had been sitting on Saint's Rock for a few days. When he was thirsty or tired, the little fox would come running over and plucked a bunch of fruit from somewhere he didn't know. Qin Mu and Hu Linga would then eat the fruits together. Qin Mu comprehended for over 10 days and experienced the woodcutter's lecture for over 10 times, yet he always felt it was hard for him to comprehend unity technique, thus he gradually got impatient. Let's not eat fruits today. I've been eating fruits every day, and my mouth feels bland. Qin Mu stood up from Saint's Rock and asked Hu Linga, we'll eat meat today. Linga, is there any things to eat in the mountains? Hu Linga cheered, there are musk deer in the mountain. I saw a herd of musk deer, and wanted to lay my paws on it, but this is Saint Arrival Mountain, so I didn't dare to meddle around. Qin Mu was excited and said, let's hunt one. Not long later, a human and a fox were roasting the meat of musk deer. Hu Linga took out some salt from her own little backpack, and sprinkled it over the meat, making it fragrant and appetizing. They were simply starved and they devoured the musk deer cleanly. Hu Linga laid on her back, while rubbing her bulging tummy, full of satisfaction. Qin Mu was also stuffed, and he stood up to walk a step or two, executing his Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, to speed up his digestion. His footsteps grew faster and faster, as he started to cultivate the way he had cultivated in disabled elderly village unknowingly. Suddenly he executed Thunderclap 8 strikes, and every punch and palm exploded the air, causing thunder to resonate out. With his fist as a hammer, he executed Mute's hammer skills to smash down on the air that was like a huge drum. He, on the other hand, was like a giant beating onto the drum, shaking the trees in the foresting from the dull booms. Qin Mu's move changed again, as he executed his leg skills before changing it into spear skills, sword skills, then knife skills. The speed of his sprint grew even faster, and he actually gathered his vital chi into a brush to paint in the air, abandoning all restraint to his heart's content. Suddenly he executed Secrets of Moving Rain, and the rain was like swords and strings, mixing the sounds of strings among the sound of rain. He then changed to Secrets of Rolling Thunder, and flames which rumbled with thunder, and balls of flame exploding in all directions. Another ball of flames gradually rose into the sky and turned redder and redder as though it was a setting sun. The flaming sword chi shot off in all directions as he executed Sunset Sword skill. His vital chi then changed and he turned into a sprinting white tiger, which split rocks with his claws. He then executed the 7 writings of creation. Spirit creation technique to change his form, Heavenly God creation technique to change his technique, Heavenly Devil creation technique to change his appearance, Human King creation technique to change into dragon, Ghost creation technique to change his soul, Earth Eon creation technique to change his spirit and pre-celestial creation technique to change his neonate. He then executed all kinds of spells, fist skills, sword skills, and knife skills in great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Unknowingly, he had sunk into a marvelous state, where the woodcutter's voice sounded on and off in his mind. Sometimes it was deep and low, sometimes it was loud and clear, and sometimes it was muffled. All kinds of mysteries flooded his mind again and again, filling up his mind before flowing out from his hand to become marvelous moves. There was only delight in his heart, as he unleashed to his heart's content. No matter what spell, divine art or sword skill, he just unleashed them all regardless of their order. He only felt his heart becoming deranged. If the technique of great educational heavenly devil scriptures didn't flow, therefore he changed it. If the circulation of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique was rough, he would go with the flow and adjust the direction of the vital chi circulation. To act straightforwardly, to follow the course of nature, that's the meaning of path. At this moment, he finally had understood this sentence deeply. No matter what his predecessor had left behind, no matter what great educational heavenly devil scriptures, or Overlord Body 3 elixir technique was, he would just let the vital chi circulate with the flow, executing all kinds of moves and divine arts. Circulating his boundless vital chi, however, no matter if it was to the standard or not. The more it was like this, the marvel of Woodcutter's lecture on the rock allowed him to understand even more and comprehend even more marvels. The three heavenly kings were also astonished and immediately came out to have a look, only to see sparks shining out in the forest of Saint Arrival Mountain from time to time. The rumbles of thunder sounded while the ground rolled over and over. As the air vibrated with the knife lights and sword shadows, the forest collapsed in pieces. The three heavenly kings' expression changed hugely, and Heavenly King Sha suddenly shouted, "This is bad. The sacred cult master is sprinting towards the sacred tree." The elders immediately rose into the air and landed in front of the cypress pine, only to see Qin Mu unleashing all kinds of moves and divine arts to his heart's content, as if he had gone crazy. His vital chi even showed apparitions of all kinds of gods and devils. No matter if it was the righteous path, devil path or Buddhism path, he just executed all of it. No matter if it was the divine arts unique to White Tiger spirit body, the defensive methods unique to Black Tortoise spirit body, the Tempest of Green Dragon spirit body, or the True Fire of Vermilion Bird spirit body, they were all executed in his hand to his heart's content, making the three cult Heavenly King flabbergasted. Unity technique. Heavenly King Sha muttered, "He has comprehended it, he has comprehended it." There was only one requirement to the unity technique of great educational heavenly devil scriptures, which was to unite all the spells, divine arts, sword skills and battle techniques, in great educational heavenly devil scriptures, which included the 7 writings of creation. When one managed to do this, they could then be considered unified. When the previous cult masters received the teachings from the woodcutter on the rock, they would all have to comprehend their own unity technique, and only when they succeeded then could they secure their position of cult master. Otherwise, for sects like Heavenly Devil Cult, which didn't mind their cult master dying, changing the cult master would become a common thing. Those that could become Heavenly Devil Cult master were all brimming over with talent, therefore, every one of them could be considered talented figure. Even Cult Master Li, who was castigated for losing himself in female charms, was also an existence of great talent, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to plant a heart devil in granny-sized Dao heart, which even strong practitioners like Village Chief Mute couldn't break. However, what made the three cult heavenly kings astonished was that the speed of Qin Mu comprehending unity technique was a little too fast. It had just been over 10 days, and he had already touched the borders of unity technique, starting to harmonize his techniques and blend them together. What they didn't know was that Qin Mu's so-called overlord body had no vital chi's attribute, and could turn into vital chi of any attribute at the same time. In addition to that, Overlord Body 3 elixir technique also had no attributes, and could also turn into any attribute. Qin Mu used Overlord Body 3 elixir technique as a foundation, adding and taking away stuff on top of the foundation, running through the cult doctrine and philosophy of great educational heavenly devil cult and merging it with the marvel of the teachings on the rock, taking the first step to form his own unity technique. To act straightforwardly, to follow the course of nature. This sentence was brought out brilliantly by him. His unity technique may be using Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique as a foundation, but Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique had no branches, or leaves, therefore, the technique of great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures became its branches while the spells, divine arts, sword skills and battle techniques became its leaves. With the jade tree adorned, the technique was achieved and everything would let nature take its course. After a moment, Qin Mu slaughtered his way over to the cypress pine, and the three cult heavenly kings were extremely nervous, afraid that he might chop down this ancient tree which represented the sacred cult, when they weren't paying attention. They didn't expect that Qin Mu didn't keep going to slash the cypress pine, when he slaughtered his way to the tree. Instead, he sat down on Saint's Rock in the lotus position and calmed down. Vital chi curled around his body, as his spirit embryo moved while his 5 stars shook. The 5 elements rose into the sky by themselves and landed on the 5 element stars. His eyes looked at his nose while his nose looked at his heart. His breath was like white light, while the golden light was contained in his eyes as he sat there. Heavenly King Lu was about to say something when Heavenly King Shu immediately did a shush action and walked away quietly on tiptoe. Heavenly King Lu and Heavenly King Yu also sneaked away with light footsteps and followed him to leave quietly. The sacred cult master of this generation sure is remarkable. Heavenly King Shu walked further and turned his head back to look at Qin Mu while sighing ruefully. Patriarch has a good judgment indeed. The future of our sacred cult would probably have to rely on him. Such talent and power of understanding are rare in this world. He still can't be compared to the saint of every 500 years. Heavenly King Yu sighed. An existence like eternal peace imperial preceptor can only be met once every 500 years. Heavenly King Lu looked at the mess throughout the entire mountain. Those were the trees that were knocked down when Qin Mu was sprinting with comprehending. Some of the collapsed trees were still crackling from being burned. Rare in the world naturally couldn't be compared to once every 500 years, after all, there can only be one every 500 years. This sacred cult master is good in everything, though it's just that he's too troublesome. This cult Heavenly King sighed ruefully. Our Saint Arrival Mountain had only been destroyed into this state when Dao Sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery invaded us, right? Don't talk about it anymore. He's the cult master Patriarch chose after all. No matter how troublesome he is, we have to endure it. Let's go and put out the fire. Qin Mu sat on Saint's Rock for another half a day, and was woken up by hunger. He called Hu Linga over to hunt a musk deer. They roasted the meat of the musk deer, and had no more appetite, after eating half of it. Young master got tired of it. The little fox picked her teeth in boredom and said, I saw a few fish dragons in fish observation pond, which looked quite delicious, and are pretty plump. I saw them too, and they were indeed appetizing. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment and said, I'm afraid I can't defeat those fish. However, Grandpa Apothecary had said, if I can't win, I can poison. Hu Linga cheered, and halfway through her cheer, the little fox immediately shut her mouth, as she saw the 3 cult heavenly kings standing behind them with black faces. Qin Mu rose and smiled. How long have the heavenly kings been here? Just. Heavenly King Shu wore a pleasant countenance. Sacred cult master can continue to eat slowly without rushing. That's right, the few fish dragons in fish observation pond were reared by the 16th generation cult master. Back then the 16th cult master gave lectures to the disciples by the pond and reared a few fish. By turning the fish into a dragon to give pieces of advice to the disciples, it led to becoming a deed that captured the imagination, and had spread far and wide, thus these fish dragons had lived on. Sacred cult master can head over to the pond when you're free to do a head count in case the fish slips away. Qin Mu's face turned slightly red. These fish dragons couldn't be eaten. Cult master, how does the musk deer taste? Heavenly King Lu asked with a smile. Sit down and eat together, Qin Mu invited them. The 3 cult heavenly kings were no modest, as they took a seat each, and split the musk deer's meat. Heavenly King Yu licked the grease on his fingers and smiled, not a bad taste. If I had not known these musk deer were raised by the saintess of the previous generation, I would have long eaten them. They are raised by Granny Sai. Qin Mu's face turned black. What else could be eaten on this Saint Arrival Mountain? Heavenly King Lu seemed to blurt out accidentally, the forest which Cult Master destroyed was planted during the Founding Master's era. The sago palm grows slowly, and for them to be this thick, they have to grow for a few thousand years. Qin Mu felt agitated sitting down. That forest was completely destroyed by him, and there were only a few burned sago palms standing upright there. I have no idea who has plucked the Sacred Heart flower from the flower bed in Hall of Sacred Heart. Heavenly King Yu beamed. Qin Mu looked at Hu Linga, who was looking down at a musk deer's bone. Her furry tail, which would always sway around, was unusually calm. Heavenly King Sha said, "There's also the green lamp in Floor of Natural Charm, which contains sesame oil. Not sure who has drunk quite an amount of it." Hu Linga sensed Qin Mu's gaze staring at her own fox's tail, and secretly hid her tail under her buttocks. Qin Mu coughed and said, "Linga, your fox's tail is revealed." "Where?" The little fox cried out. "I have clearly hidden it." Heavenly King Lu said, "Neither too fast nor too slow. There's an ancient medicinal tree in front of the Hall of Medicine King, and a huge copper-colored 9-leaf Lingji mushroom grew on it. The 9th leaf has almost been completely chewed away. That Lingji mushroom is cultivated by the ancient medicinal tree, and has a strong medicinal energy in it. There are also many spores in it, and the spores fly around in all directions. The spores would sprout from time to time, and small Lingji mushrooms would pop out." On the little fox's head, a small Lingji mushroom popped out, and she immediately raised her paws, pretending she was scratching her head, secretly plucking it down and sending it into her mouth. She thought everything was hush-hush, yet to her surprise, Qin Mu and the 3 cult Heavenly Kings were staring at her when she raised her eyes. Heavenly King Sha said, "There are also a few cloud pearls that were embedded on the screen in Pavilion of Floating Clouds. They must have dropped off." Hu Linga became nervous and immediately hugged the little backpack on her back. Qin Mu gave 2 coughs and stood up. "3 Heavenly Kings, it's been a while since I came to Saint Arrival Mountain. Suddenly, I remembered I'm still the Imperial Academician of Imperial College, and did not attend many lessons. I plan to leave Saint Arrival Mountain today, and return to the capital city." The 3 cult Heavenly Kings gave sighs of relief, and Heavenly King Sha said, "By rights, we should keep Sacred Cult Master here to comprehend, but since Sacred Cult Master's studies are more important, we won't be keeping you." Heavenly King Yu said courteously, "Sacred Cult Master, Saint Arrival Mountain is Cult Master's home, so you must return home frequently. Don't treat yourself as an outsider." Definitely. Qin Mu replied courteously, "As the Sacred Cult Master, I would naturally come back to have a look frequently. Do you need us to send Sacred Cult Master down the mountain?" No need. 3 Heavenly Kings, no need to see me out. "Young Master, you seem to be despised by the cult Heavenly Kings." Hu Linga blinked her eyes innocently and said. Qin Mu stared at her, and the little fox secretly hid her fox's tail again. Qin Mu was speechless and shook his head. "Even though you created troubles everywhere, those were small troubles. The troubles I created aren't less as well, and they were all bigger than yours, so I don't have the face to lecture you. This is probably the first time in Heavenly Saint Cult's history that the Sacred Cult Master is being despised by his subordinates. Oh well, since I have pretty much comprehended Unity technique, let us leave the mountain." Hu Linga hurriedly nodded her head. Qin Mu tested a few more times and felt that he had mastered the technique of the teleportation clothing. Carrying Hu Linga in his chest, he said, "I'm still not confident of this teleportation. There are still some pills in my backpack, and in case my vital chi is depleted, I can still replenish it." Hu Linga clung tightly to his chest and didn't dare to relax. Qin Mu leaped down from Saint Arrival Mountain, and the whooshing sound of wind brushed past his ears. With the youth's brocaded clothes covering and putting away, he had sufficiently vanished in mid-air. The 3 cult Heavenly Kings immediately rushed to the bottom of the mountain, and looked down, yet they couldn't see any traces of Qin Mu. Azura's blood eyes awaken. Heavenly King Yu stretched out his index finger, and touched the heart of his brows. Red lights burst forth from his 2 eyes as he looked downwards to search. After a moment, he found traces of Qin Mu and let out a sigh of relief. "Sacred Cult Master is fine, and has already reached the borders of Heaven's lightning restricted area, which revolves around our Saint Arrival Mountain. After he passes through this Heaven's lightning restricted area, he would be safe. Heavenly King Lu's heart suddenly trembled and he hurriedly asked, "Senior brothers, have you told the sacred cult master about Heaven's lightning restricted area that's outside Saint Arrival Mountain?" Heavenly King Yu and Heavenly King Sha looked at each other and both shook their heads. Heavenly King Sha mumbled, "Junior brother Lu has not told sacred cult master about it." Heavenly King Lu shook his head, "I thought you guys had said it." Crap. The expressions of the three cult Heavenly Kings changed hugely and they immediately leaped down. Heaven's lightning restricted area was laid down by a cult master of the previous generation to protect the sacred ground. From the outside, there was no peculiarity, but once inside, one would receive the bombardment of the blue sky's heaven's thunder. Don't mention Qin Mu, even if it was a strong practitioner of celestial being realm, they would still die or become crippled when they landed inside. With Qin Mu's cultivation, he will definitely be turned into ashes in an instant. The speed of the three cult Heavenly Kings was extremely fast and they came to Heaven's lightning restricted area, barging into the restricted area to save them. Even with the dense cultivation of the three Heavenly Kings, they were still charred from the lightning strikes. That lightning region sure is dangerous. Outside Heaven's lightning restrict area, Qin Mu looked towards the sky and had a lingering fear in his heart. Luckily, I had used Green Heaven's eyes to see this hidden lightning region, and directly teleported out. There seemed to be people in the lightning region. He had no time to take a closer look as his body was already falling down from mid-air. Below him were the green mountains and blue waters of Eternal Peace Empire, which were covered by the clouds, looking very spectacular. This video will end here.